Hello students, this is Miss Nance, and I'm going to teach you how to use Desmos today. So I have an Android phone, so I'm on the Play Store. If you have an Apple phone, you're going to go on the App Store. I'm going to search for Desmos Graphing Calculator. Okay, it's already opened on mine, it's already installed, so you would click install or get, whatever it says on your phone. And even though I'm using a Android and you might be using an iPhone, this symbol is going to look exactly the same. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and open it. Okay, and you see that it kind of has a graph at the top and some equation stuff at the bottom. Okay, so you actually can graph with Desmos, that's why it's called a graphing calculator. We're not going to be using that function today. I'm just going to kind of teach you the specifics of how to put in numbers and equations and stuff like that. So first off, we are going to kind of solve some simple problems here. So you can see right here I have 8 plus 3 times 7. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this side here, 8 times 3, okay, and you see how it put the dot there. That's what multiplication is oftentimes shown as. I also didn't use this x over here. The four functions that you typically see are going to be right here on this side, okay? The x is a variable. If I put in that x, it would first off graph something, but you see how it's italicized? That means it's a variable and not multiplication, okay? When you want multiplication in here, you're going to see that times button. So 8 times, I put it in wrong. 8 plus 3 times 7, okay? So then I would get 29. So now if I want it to go to the next line, I could either click on it and go to 2, or I could press this button right here. A lot of you are going to be tempted to press the equal button. Don't press the equals button because that's typically used in graphing lines. I keep on pressing it and then I end up with not an answer. It doesn't like that. So you just press the button at the bottom right corner. That's going to move you to the next line. Okay, and then moving on, it's 25 plus 7 times negative 8 minus 3 in parentheses. So I'm just going to type it in exactly like it is. 25 plus 7 times negative, and then open parentheses, which are right over here, 8 minus 3. And then you'll notice it automatically puts that parentheses there. I could either press this button here, or I could click outside of it, and it would keep that parentheses for me. Okay, so I got negative 10. Let's see. So you'll notice that the subtraction sign here, in Desmos, the subtraction and the negative sign are the same. That's not true of all graphing calculators. So if you want to put a negative sign, you can put in subtraction, it'll work out just fine. Okay, moving on. We have 4/5 minus 8. So I'm going to type in 4. Now a fraction sign is just like the division sign, and that's how Desmos treats it. So I'm going to press the division sign, divided by 5. Okay, and now what a lot of you guys may do on your first try is you're going to press minus 8. And you see how this doesn't look like this over here, right here? So 4 divided by 5 minus 8. So what you need to do, let's start over, 4 divided by 5, and then you need to tap outside, so you see how the blinker went from the bottom to the middle. So 4 divided by 5, and then you tap, and then minus 8. Essentially, most of the time you're going to want whatever you see here to look like whatever you see here. There are a few exceptions to that, but for the most part that's true. If you see something that doesn't look exactly like what you have, you probably put it in wrong. So I'm going to put in 7.2. Okay, and then I'm going to press this button to go on. And then I have 4 minus 8 divided by 5. So this is another one that's it's going to type something in automatically that's a little bit off, and we don't want that. If I typed it in exactly like it is here, I would get 4 minus 8 divided by 5. And you see it has 8/5 here, and that's not what it has here. It has 4 minus 8 divided by 5. So what I need to do is actually need to start over. I'm going to do 4 I'm going to use parentheses. So open parentheses, 4 minus 8, that's telling the calculator I want that one thing to be grouped together. Then what I'm going to do is use that division sign, divided by 5. Oh, and then I press the equal button. Okay, so negative 0.8 or negative 8/10 is what you get. Okay, this doesn't come up a whole lot, but when it does, you want to know how to use it, especially when you're trying to substitute in equations, that kind of thing. You may see this come up. So if you tell your calculator, I want parentheses around this, it'll know what to do with that 5. Okay, moving on. So we have 17 pi. Now in previous grades, you may have used 3.14 to represent pi. We are not doing that anymore. We have calculators that remember pi for us. So all we're going to type in is 17. You could type the times button, but you don't need to, so I'm not going to. 17 pi. And then that gives me 53.4, and then I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, so I'm going to get 53.41. Okay, and then I have 17 pi divided by 7. Nothing too tricky about this. I'm going to type in 17 pi. Because these two things are multiplied by each other, it'll automatically put that the fraction symbol or the division sign right underneath it. And then divided by 7. And then I get 7.6, and then the 9 is bigger than 5, or 5 or bigger, so I'm going to put that, round that up. Okay, moving on to square roots. So right here is the square root button. You probably saw it in, I think you saw it in 6th grade. So the square root of 25. Okay, and if you ever type in something wrong, you can just press this button right here. That's the delete button. Or if you type something in wrong, you could just start over and press the enter button and then just try again. Square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so that square root turned out nicely because that is a perfect square. But without a perfect square, square root of 83, that's an irrational number. We're going to learn about those tomorrow. So the square root of 83 is 9.11. It can't be rounded up because that's a 0. Okay, and then we're going to get into kind of mixing these all together. Most of the time we don't really need to mix them all together, but occasionally on STAR tests you're going to see them mixed up like this, where they have square roots and fractions and all sorts of stuff. So then the square root of 24 over 7, so this is another one where you're going to have to pay attention to what your calculator types in. So 24, you see how that blinker is still underneath the square root sign? That means that when I put in divided by 7, it's going to try to put it as a fraction. I don't want that. That's going to get me the wrong answer. I want divided by 7 outside of the square root. So I'm going to delete. So when I get to this point and I see that blinker blinking underneath the square root sign, I'm going to click out of it. And you see how it's blinking outside of the square root sign now? So I'm going to divide by 7, and you see this looks a lot more like this than the previous one did. So then I'd round up my answer. 0.699 gets rounded up to 0.7. Okay. Okay, now I'm using the squared right here. So I'm going to do 3. And then you see this button that says a squared. That means that you could put in a number and it'll automatically square it for you. So squared is going to get me 9. Okay, once again, using the squared, I'm mixing a few things together. 9, and then I'm going to use that squared button again, 9 squared, divided by, and that divided the correct way, so that's good, 3, and then I'm using that pi button right there. Okay, 8.59, 4 is not bigger than 5, so I'm just going to keep it like it is. And then the square root of 109 divided by 2 squared. This is another one where I know right away that I'm going to have to check and make sure that this, though it's my calculator, looks like this. So the square root of 109, if I tried to put in divided by 2 squared, it's going to do that thing where it puts everything under the square root sign. I don't want everything under the square root sign, I just want this part. So, okay, so I'm going to do the square root of 109 then I'm tap outside, because I'm telling the calculator I don't want you to type into the square root anymore, divided by 2, and then squared. Okay guys, I just wanted to add a quick thing about how to use Desmos on your computer. So you can actually log in, Desmos. You can type desmos.com in. You could search for Desmos. So let's do that. Either way, this is going to lead you to desmos.com. We're going to go to Math Tools. And then you could actually, depending on what you're doing, you can use a 4-function calculator, the scientific calculator. I'm going to go ahead and use the graphing calculator because it looks most like what you saw on the other video, other part of it. So then it works the same way. You can click the show keypad, and that's going to add some stuff that you wouldn't just see on your keyboard. So typically when I'm in Desmos, I'm going to click on this so I can see it. And then it works really similarly. This layout looks the same way. The only thing that's kind of different is, let's say you had to do that thing where you have to tap outside in order to tell the calculator to not be in a fraction anymore, to not be in a square root. So what I could do, like let's say I want to do 6 divided by 2 minus 3, right? And then if I wanted to tap out of that because I want the minus 3 outside of the fraction, I would just click on it. So it's similar. It's just instead of using the tap feature, you're just going to click on it. And I get minus 3. Okay, and then it's the same functions as before.